Hi, my name is Liz Kuivinen, and I teach piano at Anoka Ramsey Community College. This video is for the classically trained pianist who wants to learn how to play jazz. Typically in high school and middle school jazz band music, chord voicings are written out for the pianist on the grand staff. And this makes perfect sense. The incoming student pianist has probably taken lessons and can read the treble and bass clef, and they're going to sound great. But at the end of the semester, what have they really learned about chord symbols, chord voicings, and comping? How can we help the students glance at a chord symbol, get their eyes off the page, and see their creative options on the keyboard? Today I'm going to talk about chords, chord voicings, and comping. A big part of jazz is knowledge of scales and chords. The classical pianist reads chords in printed music all the time, but do they really know them? Once a pianist has a solid foundation of knowing their 12 major chords, forming all other chords is really a simple process of building on that knowledge. So, here's a quick and easy way to really know and memorize all the major triads. But first, let's start with some basic definitions. A chord is 3 or more notes built in thirds. That is the root of the chord. In this case, we're going to play a C chord. Go up a third, up another third, the root, the third, and the fifth. If I go up another third, I'm on the 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th. If I went up another third, I'd be back on the root. So a chord only goes as high as a 13. A C13 chord, a C11 chord, a C9 chord, C7, and plain old C major. All right, let's learn those 12 major chords. They're actually very easy to learn and memorize if you put them in group according to color. So there are 12 different chords, and we're going to have 4 groups of 3 chords each. Group 1 are the all-white note major chords. The C major chord, your thumb is the root, F major, and G major. Those 3 chords are the only all-white note major chords. Group 2, the color combination for group 2 is white, black, white. The 3 chords in this group are D, E, and A. It's nice to put those 3 letters in a phrase to help you remember. I use Drug Enforcement Agency, D. Lock your hand, lift to E, A. So it really helps to use the same fingers every time so you aren't readjusting fingers as you go. Lock your hand, lock your hand, lock your hand, D, E, A, until you can start seeing exactly where those chords are and you don't have to think so hard about it. All right, we're halfway there. That's 6 of the 12. Group 3, the color combination for group 3 is black, white, black. The same 3 letters that were in group 2, D, E, and A, are in group 3 as well. You just put flats after it, so D flat, E flat, and A flat. Black, white, black is the color combination. I'm going to use the fingering 1, 3, 5 for all of these chords. So I get my thumb on a D flat, take the higher white note in the middle. I'm just in a D flat hand position. D flat, E flat, A flat. Almost there. The last group are the one-of-a-kind chords. Nothing else looks like them as a major chord. 2 of them are sister chords because they both have the same starting letter. So B, the B chord, B and B flat. The B chord is white, black, black. We're going to go up for those black notes. It's a sharp chord. B, D sharp, F sharp. And then B flat, the only black note in the chord is the B flat itself. B flat, D, F. Find those in different places on the keyboard because nothing else looks like them. And the last chord is F sharp or G flat, the only all black major. G flat, F sharp, B flat, B. All right, that's it, the 12 major chords. Practice them in groups, get your eyeballs on the keyboard, get to know them, and then try drilling them in random order. Maybe have a friend call them out, or you write them on a piece of paper in a random order, and you find them as fast as you can. But get them under your fingers. All right, we have our major chords down. That's great. Let's get to a few other 3-note chords that you might encounter and get those definitions out of the way. They're actually pretty easy if you compare them to the major version of the chord. So here's C major. To make any major chord minor, you lower the third of the chord by a half step. And And just a reminder, a half step means moving to the very next closest key on the keyboard, and down is this way. C minor, F minor, E flat minor, E flat major, E flat minor. All right, diminished. You lower the third and the fifth of a major chord to get diminished. There's my D major right now. I lower the third, I lower the fifth. D diminished. C diminished. B flat diminished. And the last quality chord we're going to talk about of the 3-note chords is augmented. You just raise the fifth from the major version and get an augmented chord. D augmented. G augmented. B flat augmented. All right, seventh chords. Seventh chords are actually pretty easy to find if you know your major and minor triads. We're going to look at the 3 most common seventh chords in jazz: the major seventh, the minor seventh, and the dominant seventh. So it's actually a triad with the interval of a seventh on top. So here's my C major triad. And if I'm looking for a C major 7, it's a major triad with the interval of a major seventh on top. So the interval is the distance between, in this case, the root to the 7th note of the scale. This is the 7th note of the C scale, but if you don't know all your major scales, it's really not that important. A quick way to find a major 7th is to go down a half step from the root. So that's C, that's also a C, the octave. I go back a half step, C major 7. Let's find a D major 7. There's my D major triad. I go to D the octave, I go back a half step, D major 7. The chord symbol for major 7 is MA 7, or triangle 7, sometimes just triangle, or capital M7 or capital MAJ7. Let's find a B flat major 7. There's B flat, the octave, B flat major 7. All right, let's find a dominant 7th. So our second type of 7th chord, it's a major triad with the interval of a minor 7th on top. So there's my C major triad, and if a major 7 is a half step below the root, a minor 7 is a whole step below the root. So minor 7 is right there. This is a C7, not a C major 7, C7. Even though the triad is major, you don't say major for this chord. You say major for this one, C7 or C dominant 7th. So let's find a D dominant 7th, D major triad. Octave, go down a whole step, half step, whole step. D7. This is the most common 7th chord in jazz, the dominant 7th or just the 7th chord. B flat 7, here's B flat. There's the octave, B flat, go down a half step, major 7, another half step, minor 7. This is a B flat 7 chord. All right, and the last type of 7th chord is a minor 7th. It's a minor triad with a minor 7th. So here's my C minor triad. I know a minor 7th is a whole step below the octave. Here's my C minor 7. D minor 7, D major, D minor, octave, whole step. D minor 7, B flat, minor, octave, whole step. B flat minor 7. And that's it, our 3 basic 7th chords. All right, moving on to voicings. Voicings are how you decide to put a chord together, how to get that unique jazz sound. All of our voicings are going to be based off of 7th chords. We're going to look at that dominant 7th, minor 7th, and major 7th. A lot of the times the job or the function of the pianist in a group setting, whether it's jazz band or a combo, is to leave out the root of the chord. So those are called rootless voicings. The bass player's job is to play the root of the chord. So if I was playing a C chord, the bass player would not like it if I played that C. All right, so rootless voicings, leaving the root out but still playing the correct chord quality with the other notes. So the easiest way to find a rootless voicing, the first example we're going to use is we're going to replace the root with the 7th of the chord. So this is a C major 7th, so I went down a half step. So you aim for the triad, lower your thumb a half step, and you're playing a major 7. So I can use that same concept if I'm doing a dominant 7th. That means I'm going to go down a whole step with my thumb. C major triad, but lower my thumb a whole step. I'm leaving the C out. I'm leaving the root for the bass player. C C dominant 7. So the voicing would be, if you're trying to describe it, be 7, 3, 5. 1, 3, 5 is a root position, 7, 3, 5 is a rootless voicing. So that is our first rootless voicing for the day, and you can use it in any type of 7th chord. So if I had an F minor 7, I'd start with the F, lower the 3, and lower my thumb a whole step to that flat 7. You get a really nice sound with those. G minor 7, F minor 7, C minor 7, B flat major 7, A flat major 7, E flat major 7, D7. So it's a real easy way to get a great sounding chord. It's a nice voicing, 7, 3, 5. All right, that's our first voicing. Our second voicing is going to be just straight up take the root out of the chord in its root position. So if I'm doing a C major 7, take the C out. So our voicing would actually be 3, 5, 7. Let the bass player hit the root. 3, 5, 7. So this is a C major 7 chord. This is a C7 chord. C minor 7 chord. Notice you're just playing E flat major triad. So the top 3 notes of a minor 7th is actually a major triad, built off the minor 3rd. C minor 7. F minor 7. G minor 7. G, the flat 3, the 5, the whole step below. You'll get a lot of mileage out of those two voicings. I'm going to add one more thing to your chord for those two voicings. That'll give you a little bit of flavor. Sometimes chord symbols just say 7, but that doesn't mean you can't add an extension. An extension is one of the notes that's above the octave. So we have a 1, 3, 5, 7. If I went up another third, that's a 9. That's an 11. That's a 13. We talked about that. 9s are the most friendly extension to add to any chord. You can add them almost at will, at your discretion. If it sounds great, keep it. 9s are super easy to find. It's the second note of the scale. So in other words, it's a whole step above the root. So this is a C9 chord. Flat 7, added 9. If your chord symbol just asks for a C7, you can add that 9 and then you'll probably be safe. Just adds a little bit of warmth to it. The 11th is not quite as friendly, and the 13 also has a unique sound to it. You may want to be careful about adding that. We're just going to add one extension, that's the 9. So if we did our same voicing, 7, 3, 5, let's say I went for the C major 7, so here's my C triad. Lower my thumb a half step to the major 7. Play the bass in my left hand. If I added that 9, a whole step above the root, I've got a nice voicing. A 4-note voicing versus a 3-note. Let's look at another one. Let's do an F minor 7 with an added 9. So here's my F chord. I'm going to make it minor. I'm going to bring my thumb down a whole step for that 7. And I'm going to add the 9, which is a whole step above the root. A very nice sounding chord. So if your eyes are used to seeing the triad in its root position, you're just visualizing a whole step above and a whole step below for the 7s and the 9. Whole step in either direction. See? B flat 7, there's my B flat. I'm going to go down a whole step and up a whole step. B flat 7. B flat major 7, half step below. So now we've got some great chord voicings. How do we make them sound like jazz? Comping or accompanying is that next logical step. So in other words, when to play, when not to play. In part, we're talking about rhythm, we're talking about feel, and in part, we're listening to the other members of the ensemble and responding in the moment. So this could be really challenging for the classical pianist who's had everything written out for them. So it's a big ask. We're asking them often for the first time to be creative and feel the music. In jazz, the 8th note is swung. So in order to comp in a way that it feels right with the music, the pianist needs to understand the swing 8th note. So as we know, traditional 8th notes are straightforward, 1 and 2, and splitting that beat perfectly in half. Swung 8th notes are often explained as a triplet where the first 2 8th notes are tied. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And to To understand feel, one thing that I do, and I know a lot of my friends and other musicians do, is to actually move when you're playing the music, to feel that lope, to feel that eighth note, to feel the beat, and help you play or comp in the right pocket, in the right place. So it's going to lock with the other musicians in the band. All right, so once the pianist has that feel, or the concept of the feel of the eighth notes, then they can choose where to play in the music. So you can either play on the beat or off the beat, on the numbers or on the ands. And remember, less is more. So I would encourage you to maybe start with a blues, use those new voicings, and maybe one time through it, we're just going to play on the one, and there's nothing wrong with playing on the one. And then maybe playing on the one and, playing on the one and on the and of three. Now the pianist is ready to put all those pieces of information together. So using the voicings, a great place to start is the blues. So maybe a B-flat blues, just playing on the one using the voicings. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And so on. And then maybe choosing on and off beats, a particular rhythm, beat 1 and the and of 2. 1, 2, and 3, 4. And then mixing it up. Maybe a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And encourage them to move around the keyboard, even if it's just the same voicing an octave higher. Till ultimately you can mix it all up. 2, 3, 4. All right, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, please contact me at the email above, and have a wonderful day.